we are trying to cater to that demand, but the compromise...
Before this, they had ridiculous margins to play with, right?
Yeah.
And
last week we were talking about stock market, and this week it's property, investment one, investment to the other. Now, you talk to some property developers, and although they stop short of saying everything is all great, they're saying that, it's not that bad. And I have this question, because I did a Just Saying on this a couple of weeks ago. Are they just lying to themselves, that they think they can still pull these magical numbers out?
I mean, I think if you look at the bullish run that we had, five years back,
yeah.
Right? We're not going to see those kind of sales numbers anymore, I think. But developers have seen a sharp rebound from 2016, 2015, which has been really slow. So that's very encouraging for them. And you look at pictures, you can actually see these sales galleries are full because developers have dropped their price point.
Yeah.
They're launching properties that are more affordable.
Okay.
And it's definitely pulling people. There's definitely pent-up demand to buy property. The question is whether developers can cater to this demand.
Yeah, so they did mention, like Paramount's Jeffrey Chu actually said that, look, we are trying to cater to that demand, but the compromise is, look, your house is not going to collapse, but they are stepping away from the brand name tiles or brand name fixtures. Does that mean even though your prices are dropping, are you still getting good money?
Yeah, well, before this, they had ridiculous margins to play with, right?
Yeah.
And they all had to differentiate themselves from each other. So it was all about pricing up. But today, it's all about making sure you can meet people's ability to even buy the property, right? So it's a totally different approach. And when you're paying a certain price, you're gonna have to lower your expectations as well. And I think it comes with the territory, lah.
Okay, but the one thing that I did like, and I had to do this several times, sheesh man, you had to give me a more complicated graphic, couldn't you? But it's a very good one. So break it down. These circles are implying what? This is the B40, this is the M in the middle, and this, of course, is the top fellas.
Yeah.
So what was it that this trend kind of showed you that there are still demand, that people can still buy?
So what we've seen from the data in the past is that people just compare average house prices to median income.
Yeah.
But what this graphic actually does is it shows you the percentage of households in each income bracket that are renting. So that kind of indicates to you where the pockets of demand are. Because if you're renting, you want to look to buy a house.
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's not perfect, but it kind of indicates to you where the demand is. And based on the size of the bubble, you can tell where most of the renters are and where you should be selling most of your property. But if you look on the supply side of things, the supply is totally skewed to places like, KL, where there's not that much demand, and maybe they can't meet even the...
These two don't even overlap, right? So if you actually see something like, for example, Selangor, where actually developments, the number of launches have actually dropped.
Yeah.
There is still that demand, and it still falls in the median. But something like KL, look at that, the number of launches have gone up, but it's nowhere near the price. And the other one, which is worrying because I'm Johorian, is the same thing, lah. Johor has a lot of launches, and there is demand, but the bubbles are a lot smaller.
Yep.
So ultimately, what does this actually mean?
Well, it glazes over some of the nuance, like getting approvals to actually launch the properties, but it shows that there's a lot of structural mismatch between supply and demand, and it's not just about pricing. They're selling in the wrong places, maybe.
The other thing was, and I've read several views on either or. Are we actually in a property bubble? Because actually on the first read of your story, it seems that things are holding okay structurally. But when I reread it again, I see the warning signs. Like, okay, banks are still lending, they're still okay, but certain metrics are worrying, like this one, right? Like, what does this one really mean?
Well, if you look at the bank's exposure to the property sector, it's gone from 35.6% to 46.2%.
Yeah.
That's like almost half their loans, just with the property sector.
Yeah.
Residential and non-residential. And it's not realistic to think that this can keep going up, right? At some point they're going to say, well, we need to limit our exposure to the property sector. And these are structural constraints, that are going to hold back the property sector from that sort of bull run that we saw,
All right, but then what about things like NPLs and all that? I mean, the stats seem to show that at the moment banks are still relatively healthy, but can they reach for that second bag of Doritos, or they're...
Yeah, so like the banks, NPLs are like record lows, right? Like 1.1% for properties, but The thing is, actual impairments have gone up. And that's not surprising because the amount they're lending to this sector has gone up so much. But maybe they should slow down. They're not at the risk of like a heart attack, right? Yeah, but maybe they have to watch what they eat.
All right. And then I liked how you finished it because I have that question also. So what? What does this mean for Malaysia's property sector, all this data?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Well, I think if you're looking to buy a property, now is a decent time because price points have come down. But I think you should be very wary of where you're buying and the kind of price that you pay, because we've seen like in some pockets, the last transacted price actually has been dropping.
Like Taman Tun, for example.
Yeah, places like Taman Tun, some of the high-end, high-rise developments in KL. If you have the time to look through the NAPIC data and look for where you live and you look at the prices, and if you see that it's on a downward trend, yeah, you might be worried. But if you live in other places, prices might just hold steady.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.